Good morning, children. In the last class, we have studied flotation, floating, principle of flotation. Now, today, we will study a small example based on flotation, that is, ship will float on water. Iron nail sinks in water. Your example is, why does ship will float on water and an iron nail sinks in water? You all have observed, is the ship floating on water or sinking in water? Ship will float on water. What happens to an iron nail? A piece of iron nail, if you drop it in water, what happens to it? It will sink down. Here we have studied, whenever an object, any object like a stone or a wood, if you are dropping it inside the water, its weight is acting downwards, whereas there will be an upward force. We called it as buoyant force. Do you all remember this? The upward force, or we call it as buoyant force or upthrust force. Say, if the weight of the object W1 is greater, that means let us assume it is 2 kgs and the weight here is, let us see, weight is 2 into 9.8 and 1 into 9.8. Which one is more now? Which weight is more? W1 is more than W2. Then in this case, which side does the object moves? Obviously, the object will move towards W1. If suppose W2 is more than W1, then what happens? Then the object will move towards W2. Here, let us see our example. Why does ship float on water? When you look at the ship, is there a base for the ship? Yes? Okay. There is some water, there is a ship. Okay? Now the base of the ship is more when compared to your nail. Yes or no? This is a nail. Nail base is less, whereas the base of the ship is more. When the ship is dipped inside the water, then what happens? You tell me. What happens, children? When the ship is dipped inside the water, some of the liquid, that is water, will be displaced or not? Yes? Hence, volume of liquid displaced some of the liquid will be coming out. When they, as the base of the ship is touching the water, volume of the liquid displaced will be more in which case? In the nail or your ship? In the ship. Volume of liquid displaced is more. That means this volume of liquid displaced is nothing but you are having some force acting on the ship. What is that force? We have studied weight of the ship. Another force is acting on the object. What is that force? Buoyant force. Volume of liquid displaced is more. Hence, what happens? This liquid is nothing but increases your buoyant force than the weight of the object. Volume of liquid displaced is more, which increases which force? Your buoyant force. Okay? Buoyant force is increasing. Okay? This displaced liquid is increasing your upward force, which is equal to weight of your ship. Okay? I have told you now, when this force is more, does the object moves like a floating? I have told you, when W1 is greater than W2, I have given you the conditions. The object sinks. When W2 is greater than W1, the object, what happens? It will float. Following children? As the volume of liquid displaced is more in the case of a ship, it increases your buoyant force, upward force. Hence, what happens? Your ship will float. Now, let us see your nail. Volume of liquid displaced is more or less when compared to your ship? Is less. When the volume of liquid displaced, liquid తక్కువగా displace అయితే అప్పుడు ఏమైతుంది? Buoyant force decreases. Buoyant force will be less. What happens now? పైన యాక్ట్ చేసే buoyant force, upward force is less than the weight of your nail. Then what happens? Your object must compulsorily sink in water. Follow children? This is the principle regarding why ship will float on water and an iron nail sinks in water. Look at here children. Base of the ship is large when compared to your base of your nail. Hence, volume of liquid displaced is more in the case of your ship. Hence, what happens? Upward force increases. Hence, your ship will float. Whereas, volume of liquid displaced is less. What happens? Your buoyant force decreases. What happens to your iron nail? It will sink in water. Okay? This is regarding your example why ship will float on water and an iron nail sinks in water. Next you have seen iceberg, means a huge amount of ice will be floating on water. Why does an iceberg floats on water? See here, you also observe oil floats on water. Yes or no? Iceberg floating on water. Say there is a water, a large iceberg. It will be floating on water. Here, density. What is density? We have defined it in the starting of the chapter. Mass by volume. Density of your iceberg is 0.9 gram per centimeter cube. Density of water is 1.02 gram per centimeter cube. Whose density is more, children? Either your iceberg or your water. Water density is more compared to the density of iceberg. What happens? Whose density is less, those objects will be floating on water. Whose density is more? Here your water density is more than the density of your ice. Hence, your iceberg will float on water. Okay? These are certain examples regarding density and flotation. Okay, children? Next you have, how does density depends on states of matter? What are the states of matter? Density, how to define? Mass by volume. See here, children, density is inversely proportional to volume. What does it indicate? If density increases, volume must decrease, or vice versa. If volume increase, density must decrease. Now let us take a solid example. States of matter means a solid is the one state of matter. When a solid is heated, let us take an iron rod. When you supply heat to a solid, what happens? You can say volume expands. Okay? Volume will expand because of the intermolecular force and the space. When you are supplying heat to the solid object, its volume expands. Volume increases. That means volume is increasing. Volume increases. Then what happens to my density? Density will decrease. Okay, children, this is in the case of a solid. When you supply heat to a solid substance, its volume increases. As volume increases, according to the definition of density, as it is inversely proportional, volume increase, density should decrease. Okay? Now let us consider a gas. another state of matter, gas. I have taken a gas in a flask, supplying certain amount of heat. What happens to its volume? Volume will increase. Yes or no? Volume increases. What happens to my density? Decreases. Volume increase, density decrease. When I cool the gas, what happens to my volume? Volume will decrease. When volume decreases, density will increase. Okay. These are regarding relationship with density with relationship of density with states of matter. Okay, children. This completes your second chapter, measurement. In the next class, we will study regarding chemistry, third chapter. Okay. Today, note down your homework, children. Why does a ship floats on water and an iron nail sinks in water? Okay, children. Thank you.